of the Federal Reserve. Now, this is important. I mean, I've mentioned this before. The Fed can toss around trillions of your dollars, right? And it never even has to tell anybody where or how they are using that money. Your money! It happened during the bailout. Well, that might be about to end. And for that, we have to thank this guy right here. Give credit where credit is due. Senator Bernie Sanders, independent of Vermont. Senator Sanders, good to see you, sir.
Good to be with you, Rick.
When did you get the idea of seeking an audit, which sounds simple, but it's very brazen, seeking an audit of the Federal Reserve of the United States?
I will tell you exactly when that idea came to me. It came to me in early March 2009 when Ben Bernanke, chairman of the Fed, came before the Budget Committee on which I serve. And I asked, Chairman Bernanke, will you tell me and the American people which large financial institutions received over $2 trillion in zero interest or near zero interest loans? I think the American people have a right to know. And he said, sorry, not going to tell you. On that day, I introduced legislation to mandate that he tell us. Yesterday, we passed an amendment that will have that information up on his website on December 1st.
And you're thinking, wait a minute, this is my money, our money,
exactly.
The people's money,
Absolutely.
And you're not going to tell us what you're doing with it?
Look, we have huge debates on the floor of the Senate about $10 million or $100 million. Where is it going to go? Is it a good idea? This guy, the Fed, has lent out over $2 trillion, and they don't want to let the American people know who has received that money. That is totally absurd. The other thing, Rick, which is also very important, most Americans don't know what goes on in the Fed, which is an enormous, maybe the most important U.S. government agency, paying with huge amounts of money. Okay? We don't know what goes on because they operate in virtual secrecy. For example, during the financial crisis, you had people like the CEO of Goldman Sachs sitting in a room with the Fed arguing in favor of a $182 billion AIG bailout.
Yeah, you're talking about Lloyd Blankfein, right? I mean,
that's who I'm talking about.
And he was going to benefit from that.
Oh, only to the tune of $12 billion that went from AIG to Goldman Sachs, 100 cents on the dollar for a company that was about to go bankrupt. How's that?
So if he's going to be, by golly, if he's represented in that meeting, we ought to either A, have a representative ourselves for the people in that meeting, or B,
or
at
open
least
the damn window. Let everybody look in.
The sunshine law, as we call it in Florida.
Exactly.
Let everybody know what's going on.
So the amendment that I passed is very explicit in saying that those types of conflicts of interest, or what I think and you think are obvious conflicts of interest, are going to be investigated by the GAO, and I think that's a real step forward.
Well, the Fed used to be, and still is, a very important part of our government because they do the things that are necessary with everything having to do with our money. But have they gotten so big that they are now too powerful? Regardless of all the things we were just talking about, are they just too big and too powerful?
I think the answer is yes, and I think they're very arrogant. There was a quote that came out from Alan Greenspan, I think 5 years ago. In essence, what he's saying, look, you can't open this discussion, in this case, the subprime housing mortgage crisis, you can't open it up to the people. They don't really know what's going on. We, the brilliant people who know all about these things, we should control that knowledge. And I think that's just very undemocratic, and I think that's just a very bad process.
Okay, well, listen, I think most people in the United States, it's not my job to say, but if I was to speak for them in terms of how I hear them speak on Twitter and on email, and they talk to me all the time, hundreds of thousands of people throughout the day, I would say that most people would pat you on the back and say, way to go, Senator, you're working for us. And by the way, it wasn't just you. This thing passed 96-0, so kudos. Should you take it a step further? Should you lift the veil on all discussions, like interest rate decisions, for example?
Well, two things that I want to say. From a political perspective, the reason that we are successful, and this is interesting, Rick, I'm a progressive. I work very closely with some of the most conservative members of the Senate and also conservative and progressive grassroots organizations. So I think if you pick an issue which the ordinary person feels strongly about, we can bring people together. Second of all, I think in terms of monetary policy, I don't know how much you want the Congress to be involved in that. But I do believe that there is a need for far, far greater transparency at the Fed than we have seen up to now, and we're going to continue that effort.
Senator Bernie Sanders.